I've had experiences that have made it very clear to me that there is, so again, this is my foundational paradigm, that there is a transcendent awareness. In that transcendent awareness, love is such a loaded word in our world that I hesitate to use it, but I think about it as, that's why I use harmony and I use balance, because it translates in some functional way for me in that way. But really, if I were to speak to you most honestly, it's of love, that there's a fundamental ground beneath all of this that we share, that is an experience of what we term often the sort of larger kind of capital letter love. And those, I could speak with you separately, but those experiences have been experiences of literally an experience in which I could feel myself living my life, and I could see it was in instant, less than an instant, that I was really being held in this bigger circle. There was a larger reality that was literally like, okay, you're moving down your little adventure, but I was being held by something else. And that is also holding log. So again, these are very personal. We're moving completely away from the scientific. I'm going to not look this way. I'm going to go this way. I have my heart, my science hat, and I appreciate and totally interested in the physics as well, just personally. And I will just say one other thing, if I may, just from a physician perspective. Ultimately, we live our moments, we live our day to day, we do the dishes, we have our relationships. What we do know from a more medical perspective, especially as medicine is beginning to expand into a more holistic, whole person understanding, mind, body, spirit, and community, which is a lot of the work that I do, that when we nurture thoughts, right, thought forms that are more, again, harmonious is my word, but you put the word that are more conducive to an elevated or open hearted state, which we think of often, whatever the road, as sort of the place that spirituality takes us. We know that the body changes. We know that in meditation, when you become present, right, aware in the present moment, paying attention without judgment, which is the operative piece here. And many would also say with compassion, with an attention towards a friendliness towards the self, the brain changes. There are hundreds of studies now, a number of meta-analysis on functional MRI, just looking at what those brain changes are. Particularly, we move away from the fear aspects, the amygdala, and sort of that more fight or flight aspect of the brain, towards a much more global and certainly much more of a negative feedback loop on the fear parts from the prefrontal cortex. And we also know that our heart rate changes, our heart rate variability becomes more coherent, right? Which has some medical significance. We know that our blood pressure lowers. We know that our ability to attend and to see and to take another person's perspective changes. So when we really think about the functional experience, I would come to this elevated emotions, this open heartedness, this place of inner harmony as a place that whatever the road takes us can have very real physiological impact.
I think that also speaks to one of the challenges that we have in this conversation. It seems like we're trying to come to some agreement on the fundamental foundation, but for most people, myself included, I find connection with people based on the experience. Even if our explanation of that experience may differ, we connect on having these sort of transcendent experiences. For me, working out in the deserts of Arizona, being alone in the middle of the night, chasing after bats, but having a chance to just kind of stand there in the middle of nowhere with no light pollution and seeing the stars, but also feeling very connected to all of the living things around me. It was a very transcendent experience, and people can have different views about why that's meaningful. But one of the things that I think grows out of that is that connection that we can make with other people. Maybe that's the emergent property of it. The connections that we can make with other people and the ways that we can then think about how we relate to one another, how we want to build a world together, and what that means for our day-to-day lives. even if we're not getting at that fundamental.
These are the two ways of using the term spiritual, and they're both entirely valid.